Hey everyone, Dave here with another Blu-ray DVD collection update / haul video. This is another one for the month of December 2022, January 2023, depending when I get these ones up. In this video, we're going to go over some of the more recent releases from kicks.com.au, as well as some personal pickups. Quite a bit to get to here, so let's get into it. Okay, so as I said in this video, we're going to be going over some of the most recent releases from kicks.com.au, and later in the video, we're going to be taking a look at some personal pickups that I grabbed for myself at JB Hi-Fi sales throughout the last couple of months or so. First off, we'll kick into the titles from kicks.com.au. We've got a bunch of titles here, including some new release movies and a whole heap of catalogue titles newly reissued on 4K. Let's kick it off by taking a look at the most recent new releases. Firstly, we of course have Top Gun Maverick. This is the major release for this period right here. After more than 30 years of service as a top naval aviator, Pete Maverick Mitchell is where he belongs, pushing the envelope as a courageous test pilot. Yet, Maverick must confront the ghosts of his past when he returns to Top Gun to train a group of elite graduates and come face to face with Lieutenant Bradshaw, the son of his former wingman, Goose. What more is there to say about Top Gun Maverick? I'm pretty sure everybody out there who's watching this has seen it probably multiple times by now. I in fact saw it twice in the IMAX. Very rare for me to go to the movies more than once. Very rare for me to go to the IMAX even once, but I checked this one out in IMAX twice. It was absolutely spectacular. This is easily my favorite movie of 2022, and I just adore it. The first Top Gun movie is one of my favorites of all time. I watch it annually, or at least every couple of years I watch it. I have family who love the movie. We usually get together and we watch Top Gun, and it's just one of those great movies that everyone loves. And I did not believe the second one was going to outdo the first one, but somehow it managed to do that. Look, this movie is absolutely fantastic. It was filmed with the greatest cameras available, with the best technologies available, and it looks spectacular. Of course, there are many IMAX sequences. The movie is presented on 4K disc with all the IMAX sequences at their full ratio. The 4K on this is terrific. Again, it's a native 4K, and it is just, this is the way to own the movie if you want to own it. The soundtrack on this is terrific as well. It's big and booming and immersive, and everything about this movie is just perfect. This movie is cinema. Next up, we have got the 4K release of Bullet Train. In Bullet Train, Brad Pitt stars as Ladybug, an unlucky assassin determined to do his job peacefully after one too many gigs went off the rail. Fate, however, may have other plans, as Ladybug's latest mission puts him on a collision course with lethal adversaries from around the globe, all with connected yet conflicting objectives on the world's fastest train. Bullet Train is certainly up there with my favorites of the year as well, and this one was a big surprise. This could have easily been a massive flop. We get so many of these kind of big, overblown blockbuster films that have huge casts that look great, and then they just an absolute fizzle, just like really generic action movie fodder, really. Bullet Train is a completely different beast altogether. It has a really, really great story. It's a story that you're kind of, you know, immersed in the whole time. You're hooked in the whole time. You're kind of questioning, second-guessing everything that is going on. There's great mystery, great thrills in here. It's got a terrific cast, and each character is just really great, really quirky, and you pretty much love everyone who's on the screen at every single time. And of course, the action in this one is absolutely stellar. This is a co-production between Hollywood and the Chinese film industry, and of course China always brings the big guns, particularly when it comes to action, and the action sequences in this movie are absolutely first class. On 4K, this looks terrific as well. I believe this was, you know, a native 4K film, and it's translated onto the home media beautifully. Again, soundtrack is great, very immersive with all the explosions and all that kind of cool stuff that's going on, and of course visually it's stunning. So if you want to get this movie on home media, this is absolutely the way to get it. If you haven't checked the movie out, what are you waiting for? It is so much fun. Next up, we have the 4K collector's edition of Jordan Peele's Nope. Following their father's shocking death, Hollywood animal wrangler OJ and his sister Emerald begin observing unexplained phenomena on their vast Southern California ranch that leads them down an obsessive rabbit hole as they plot attempts to capture the mystery on camera. Nope is another one of these divisive movies where people either really, really loved it, or people really hated it, or people just really kind of didn't get what was going on. I kind of feel like I fell kind of a little bit more towards the loved it side, but I didn't exactly love it. It's a movie that I really, really liked. I thought this was a great film, but there was something that just kind of held me back from really loving it. I think the final act of the movie just kind of falls apart a little bit for me. Didn't have that kind of punch that I was really hoping for from it. But that said, this is a great movie. All the performances are great in here. Jordan Peele's story is fantastic. He, of course, delivers his typical kind of allegories, his very kind of like, you know, politically kind of veiled storytelling, which I think is really, really great. Subversive storytelling as well. Is it a horror? Is it a thriller? Is it, you know, sci-fi? What is this movie? It's something that keeps you guessing and keeps you on the edge of your seat for the entire runtime. This movie, again, was filmed in part with the IMAX camera, so of course with those IMAX expanded ratio sequences you do get that expanded ratio on the 4K disc, just like with the Top Gun disc, and it looks absolutely terrific. The whole movie looks great on 4K. It's not a very colorful movie, so it's not something that's going to be really punchy, but the, you know, the textures and it's a very kind of earthy movie. It's a bit of a western as well, so the movie just looks really great overall. If you're going to pick this one up on home media, again, the 4K is absolutely the way to go. Next up, we have got the Blu-ray release of Smile. After witnessing a bizarre traumatic incident involving a patient, Dr. Rose Cotter starts experiencing frightening occurrences that she can't explain. As an overwhelming terror begins taking over her life, Rose must confront her troubling past in order to survive and escape her horrifying new reality. As you all know, I'm not the biggest fan of horror, but I am kind of slowly getting more into it, particularly when we talk about like kind of more Hollywood horror movies. The more mainstream horror stuff is the stuff that I can really get into, only because, you know, I'm not into blood and gore, but stuff like Smile is fun. A good fun popcorn Hollywood horror flick that isn't exactly horror. It is like, you know, a bit of thriller, a bit of mystery in there as well. I thought this was really fun. Check this one out at the cinema and had a really, really good time with this. It actually is really quite scary. There are some moments in here that are legitimately terrifying. A few jump scares here and there, but it doesn't rely on that to get forward the horror, which I always love as well. It's a little bit more psychological. Thought the movie was really, really, really fun, and I was very, very surprised with this one. Unfortunately, no 4K disc of this, only a Blu-ray. There's a 4K disc internationally, I believe, but I don't think this is a movie that really warrants the 4K. If you want to get the 4K, you know, by all means, import it from overseas, but I'm very happy with the HD of this. Next up, we have the Blu-ray Collector's Edition of Ticket to Paradise, starring George Clooney and Julia Roberts. Academy Award winners Clooney and Roberts team up as exes who find themselves on a shared mission to stop their love-struck daughter from making the same mistake they once made. Ticket to Paradise is a romantic comedy about the sweet surprise of second chances. Again, if you're a regular here, you know that I absolutely love a good rom-com, and it's just a dying genre that we really don't get much of anymore, particularly theatrically. I mean, there's so many going to streaming services. Netflix has a bunch, Amazon Prime has a bunch. There's actually been quite a few decent ones on Netflix, so quite a few that I've enjoyed of recent, but not ones that I would like call an absolute classic. We don't get these classic rom-coms anymore. You know, like the Hugh Grant ones, and, you know, Renee Zellweger and Julia Roberts, and, you know, all these great rom-coms that we just don't get them anymore. Thankfully, Ticket to Paradise has landed in our laps, and it's got two of the last remaining big movie stars. You know, there's been this debate recently of, has the movie star died out? You know, you talk to a child, children, and this has been proven in like polls and stuff taken at schools, children recognize social media celebrities more than they do movie stars. So the idea of the movie star is kind of dying out now. People don't go to movies to see the star anymore, or very rare occasions. This is one occasion where people have gone out to see Clooney and Roberts in a rom-com, and this movie actually did quite well at the box office. And I loved it. This is the best rom-com that has released in a long time. It's so fun, it's funny, it's cheesy, it's sappy. It's not the best movie ever made, but it is such a dumb, fun time. It's so fun watching, again, Clooney and Roberts, who are two of my absolute favorites of all time, just absolutely hamming it up on the screen. They have some great chemistry. They've done so many movies together in the past. They are great friends in real life too, and you can really see that through their performances. And I would highly recommend this one. Even just if you just need something light to cap off your weekend, this is a good one. Next up, we've got the Blu-ray Collector's Edition of Beast. Idris Elba stars in this pulse-pounding thriller as a recently widowed husband who returns to South Africa on a long-planned trip to a game reserve. What begins as a journey of healing turns into a fearsome fight for survival as he and his daughters find themselves hunted by a massive rogue lion. Beast is the summer blockbuster that just came and went. My local cinema quite literally had like 3 weeks worth of screenings planned for this movie, and I had a look at some of the screenings. Absolutely no one in them. After 3 days, they ripped all of the screenings off the schedule. You could not book a ticket to this movie because no one was going to see it. That said, finally got around to seeing it here on Blu-ray, and yeah, I can understand why. This is not the greatest movie. This is, like, it's okay. Like, Idris Elba's pretty good, and he's decent in this movie, but this is just nothing to write home about. It is a really straightforward, fairly bland action adventure. Like, it's essentially just like a really generic sort of Predator movie where the Predator is a lion and Idris Elba kind of takes him on in fisticuffs. It's not great. It's one of those action movies that you just kind of put on to waste some time, blow some brain cells, and just have like a lazy Sunday afternoon. But other than that, I wouldn't like rush out to go and see this one. That said, if you are keen to take a look at it, it's out now on Blu-ray. The Blu-ray does look great. There's no 4K available of this one. I don't think it does need it. Next up, we have got the first season of The Wheel of Time, an Amazon original series starring Rosamund Pike. Set in an epic fantasy world, The Wheel of Time follows Moiraine, a member of the incredibly powerful all-female organization called the Aes Sedai, as she arrives in the small town of Two Rivers. There she embarks on a dangerous world-spanning journey with 5 young villagers, one of whom is prophesied to be the Dragon Reborn, the one who will either save or destroy humanity. Okay, so this is an interesting one. This is an Amazon Prime original series that's actually getting a home media physical release, which is always great. You know that I always champion the streamers to release their exclusive stuff to physical media. Not only is a little bit of extra cash on the side, it's a really nice way to kind of cement these series for future generations. We've seen what is going on with HBO Max at the moment, where they're quite literally just ripping down a whole bunch of stuff. Well, who's to say that this won't happen to Amazon sometime in the future, or Netflix? In fact, it happened with Netflix with all the Marvel stuff when that transferred over to Disney+. So there's never really any kind of 100% certainty with all these shows. So I do love when this kind of exclusive material does wind up on physical media. Wheel of Time is a show that I've been keen on taking a look at for a while. I do have Amazon Prime, but I never got a chance to check it out. Just never got around to it. But now I've got it on physical media, I am actually going to make a decent effort to get around to this one. Took a look at a couple of episodes just really briefly, and it does look really quite good. I'm not personally one that's usually into like high fantasy sort of stuff, but I do enjoy like Lord of the Rings, which is fairly easy to follow. Stuff that's a little bit easier to follow. This one looks like it's going to be a little bit easier. Visually, it's gorgeous. It's got a really great cast. Of course, it's led by Rosamund Pike, who I really, really love. Her work is just really great, and I think this one just looks like one that I'm really going to be able to get into. So if you're a fan of Wheel of Time and you want to get your hands on a physical copy of it, you can, which is, again, really fantastic. Or if you're someone who's not subscribed to Amazon Prime, I know there's a lot of people out there, particularly people who are watching my videos maybe, who just don't want to touch streaming at all, you've got a chance to get your hands on this series. I know there's another 2 seasons of this coming soon. They're working on them at the moment, so this has been received very, very well, and I'm looking forward to getting into this and seeing whether I do enjoy it. That's all for the brand new movie movie releases, now let's take a look at a few new catalogue releases on 4K. Firstly, we have got Scream and Scream 2. After a series of mysterious deaths befalls their small town, in Scream, an offbeat group of friends, led by Sidney Prescott, becomes the target of a masked killer. As the body count rises, Sidney and her friends turn to the rules of horror films to help navigate the real-life terror they're living in. In Scream 2, away at college, Sidney Prescott thought she'd finally put the shocking murders that shattered her life behind her, until a copycat killer begins acting out a real-life sequel. I actually hadn't watched all of the Scream movies until earlier this year, and I finally sat down to watch them all in preparation for Scream 5, and I absolutely love them all. These are just really great, fun, sort of goofy comedy, horror, meta horror films, and I just had so much fun with these. Even when I was watching these, now the Blu-rays, the original Blu-rays are like 10 years old now. I've had them in my collection for some time, just never got around to them. I was even thinking then, oh, these transfers are not very good. I mean, you'd look back at a lot of the earliest Blu-rays, some of the transfers back then were not very good. So finding out that these were getting 4K releases was just absolute music to my ears. Now, I haven't sat down to watch them again, but I did quickly skim through them, and man, these are a huge upgrade over those original Blu-rays. These finally look filmic. They finally have their grain back. These were obviously shot on film. Of course, these are movies that don't have, you know, huge color spectrums. They're not overly boisterous or vibrant or anything like that. So the 4K, of course, the HDR pass doesn't really do a whole lot here, but these are really kind of just natural cinematic looking movies, and the overall look of these is just really great. I'd say these are absolutely worth it, particularly if these are movies that you're going to be watching over and over and over again. Next up, we have got Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Running Man. Set in a dystopic 2019 Los Angeles, now a police state in the wake of the global economy's total collapse, The Running Man is the hottest rated reality competition series, where condemned criminals are given a chance for freedom by running through a gauntlet of heavily armed killers known as stalkers. When an ex-cop is wrongly convicted of a violent crime, he finds himself on the series in the company of other prisoner contestants. Umbrella actually only recently released a Blu-ray of The Running Man here in Australia. I can't remember if that was the very first release of the movie here, or whether there had been one like maybe 10 years or so ago. But at any rate, this movie did only recently get a Blu-ray release. I believe that disc used a kind of an older master of this film. It certainly wasn't this new 4K remaster of it. Of course, this new 4K remaster comes from Studio Canal and is released here in Australia under the Classics Remastered range. Now, I did not go back and revisit the movie again because I only watched it last year. I did enjoy this. I'm a big fan of Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, and I'm only kind of now going back and seeing some of his earlier stuff. I really had a lot of fun with this one. I did pop this one in and take a quick look at the new master, and it looks great. I thought the Blu-ray looked fairly okay. It was fairly serviceable. This looks terrific. Again, this is another movie that just looks really filmic. It's obviously shot on film. This looks cinematic. It is another deep and grungy movie, so the color grading on it looks great, but there are some moments of color pops, particularly when we're looking at like the costuming of the contestants on the shows. Really bright, vibrant oranges, and it just really pops out of the screen. If you have only just picked up the Umbrella Blu-ray, it is a little bit disappointing, but this is, it's hard to say, oh, you should upgrade that when you only picked that up probably 12 months ago, but if you are a big fan of this movie, it is certainly worth getting your hands on this new 4K remaster of it, because this looks better than I imagine it ever has. We've got another Schwarzenegger movie here, Raw Deal. Forcibly retired from the FBI on the grounds of excessive brutality, Mark Kaminsky is demoted to being a small-town sheriff, where his wife reaches for the bottle and his career goes nowhere. But when the son of an old friend is killed while guarding a mob informant against a criminal outfit, Kaminsky is given another chance. Now, on the other hand, Raw Deal is another Schwarzenegger movie that got a Blu-ray release probably 10 years ago and hasn't been released on the market since. In fact, it's one of the notoriously out-of-print titles on the Australian market, one of those discs that used to go for just enormous amounts. The movie is finally back on the market and in 4K. This is a fairly nice looking image when we're talking about textures, we're talking about the kind of filmic nature of it. It has cleaned up looking very beautiful. Unfortunately, it does have a very odd color grade on it. It's very blue, it's very green in some parts. It's almost like the color balance hasn't been done properly. A lot of the movie looks like it is out of balance. Unfortunately, it doesn't look great. Again, it's a stark contrast between a really nice looking image with a really bad color grade. Apart from that, the movie is really good, a really fun sort of action cop crime thriller, an early one from Schwarzenegger, and I had a blast watching this again, as I really enjoy all these action Schwarzenegger movies, particularly the early ones. Take a look, but again, go in just with a little bit of trepidation. Next up, we have got Highlander, also coming under the Classics Remastered banner. Christopher Lambert and Sean Connery star in the 1986 cult classic. Connor MacLeod must fight his way through the centuries until the time of the Gathering, when the few immortals who have survived the ages will come together to fight until only one remains. Highlander really is the definition of a cult classic, a movie that is not really that great but has a huge kind of fan following or cult following. I am one of the people that kind of falls outside of the following this movie. Not a fan of Highlander, never really liked this one. In fact, many years ago when I first watched it, I remember finding it on Blu-ray and my mum was like, "Oh, Highlander, I remember loving this. This is such a great movie. Let's get it, let's watch it." And we watched it and we were both like, yeah, this is not it. Regardless, I did want to get my hand on the 4K release of this to check it out, and this is a really stunning 4K disc. If you're a fan of the movie, you're going to be very, very, very happy with this. Again, Highlander is another example of a movie that was released on Blu-ray more than 10 years ago and is definitely in need of an upgrade. The grain structure here is back again. The old Blu-ray, that grain structure wasn't really there, so it looks very nice there. Very cinematic movie. It was, of course, filmed, a lot of it on location in Scotland. One of my favorite places in the world is the Scottish Highlands, so that for me is worthy of the kind of the eye candy that is this movie. A lot of it looks so beautiful. If you're a fan of Highlander, definitely worth picking up this 4K remaster. There is like a special edition box set of it overseas and whatever, but if you don't worry about all that kind of useless tat, then you can just pick up this single disc edition right here. Next up, we have got 8 Mile. Eminem stars as Jimmy Smith Jr., whose life is a daily fight just to keep hope alive. Feeding his dreams in Detroit's vibrant music scene, Jimmy wages an extraordinary personal struggle to find his own voice and earn a place in a world where rhymes rule, legends are born, and every moment is another chance. 8 Mile is, of course, Eminem's semi-autobiographical movie. This one came out in the early 2000s at the height of Eminem's career, and regardless of whether you're an Eminem fan or not, there is a lot to love about this movie. This is just a really, really great drama, and Eminem is actually a really decent actor in this. 8 Mile is one of my favorite movies from that era. I wouldn't call myself a huge Eminem fan, but I do like his music, and I always have. The old Blu-ray, again, is another one of those ones that is just really kind of outdated, doesn't really look that great to today's standards. So a 4K release of this is absolutely welcome. This looks terrific. This is a very, very grungy, very filmic movie. Again, this is not a movie that has really any color at all. It could just as well be black and white. Very muted colors. The grain levels here are terrific. That's something that was really missing in the old Blu-ray because, again, it felt like it had a lot of that kind of digital noise removal going on it. This is just a top-notch 4K disc. If you are a fan of 8 Mile, this is a must-buy. It's absolutely worth the upgrade. Next up, we've got one of my favorite movies of all time, finally headed to 4K, Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction. With its unforgettable cast of characters, hip chart-topping soundtrack, and edgy, incomparable style, Pulp Fiction took the world by storm. Spanning interweaving tales of a low-rent hitman, a gangster's wife, and a desperate prizefighter with a stellar supporting cast, it's a wildly entertaining and exhilarating adventure with violence and redemption. Yes, that's right, one of my favorite movies of all time finally lands on 4K. Quentin Tarantino is one of my favorite filmmakers of all time, certainly one of my my favorite filmmakers working today, and Pulp Fiction is easily my favorite Tarantino movie. It has a little bit of competition between this Inglourious Basterds and also Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That's like my trifecta of Quentin Tarantino movies, but I think this one will always take that top spot. This is another one of those movies that has had a fairly kind of controversial release history on Blu-ray. This was released again about 10 plus years ago on Blu-ray, and that transfer was really quite bad. It was almost like they'd taken the DVD era master of the movie and plopped it on a Blu-ray. Didn't look great. A couple of years ago now, I would like to say maybe 4 or 5 years ago now, a remastered edition was brought out, but only available in the UK as far as I can remember. I never picked that up because I just had a feeling, you know, this was kind of towards the beginning of 4K. A lot of movies were getting remastered Blu-rays from 4K remasters, but the 4K disc didn't come. But it was obvious that at some point down the line, the 4K disc was going to come out. So I just kind of thought, even if I gotta wait a few more years, I'll hold out from buying this new remastered version of the movie and get my hands on the 4K when it finally comes out. And of course, patience does pay off because Pulp Fiction has finally landed on 4K, and man, is this just the transfer of my dreams. Again, this is kind of a running theme here. I'm gonna use the same two words: filmic, cinematic. This movie has never looked any better. The color here is great. Again, even though it isn't, again, another movie that's not very colorful, what it manages here with the HDR pass is really great. It makes this movie pop like never before. It is bright and vibrant in the scenes, particularly scenes that are shot on exterior locations, just look really great. That Californian sun beating down just looks absolutely terrific. Just about everything about this is what I had wanted from a 4K restoration, or just really any kind of good restoration of this movie. I am happily going to revisit this movie over and over for the rest of my life, and now we'll be doing it in 4K. I cannot wait. And finally, we have a classic movie landing on 4K for its 60th anniversary. Gregory Peck in To Kill a Mockingbird experienced one of the most significant milestones in film history like never before. Screen legend Gregory Peck stars as courageous Southern lawyer Atticus Finch, the Academy Award-winning performance hailed by the American Film Institute as the greatest movie hero of all time. Based on Harper Lee's Pulitzer Prize-winning novel about innocence, strength, and convictions, it was nominated for 8 Academy Awards. To Kill a Mockingbird is one of those absolute classics that pretty much everybody has watched. It's a staple of high school curriculums, I'm sure, right around the world. Whether you've seen this of your own accord or whether you've watched it in a, classroom setting, this is a movie that pretty much everybody has seen, and it is a terrific film. It is a great courtroom drama, and of course Gregory Peck delivers a stellar performance in here. He delivers a really great monologue in the courtroom, which is one of the most classic scenes in cinema of all time, and this is just a movie that is really, really worthy of a 4K release. Now, this again is a film that was released 10 years ago on Blu-ray for the first time for the 50th anniversary of the movie. This is the 60th anniversary edition of the movie on 4K here, but this was also released, the 50th anniversary edition was released under the 100th anniversary line of Blu-rays from Universal, and the transfer on the movie was really great then. They went through, and I think they picked 100 movies from their catalogue to remaster, to completely remaster. I'm not too sure if this uses the same remaster. I don't think it does. I think this is a new scan, which was scanned in 4K. The previous remaster would have, I think, been done in HD. There's not a huge lot of difference here. If you do have the Blu-ray and you're kind of on the fence about upgrading to 4K, it really isn't necessary. But yes, this is a movie that does look very good on 4K. A lot of these, or pretty much all of the classic cinema titles, particularly these black and white ones, I have just really loved being able to explore in 4K because it really gets the best detail and the best texture out of these films. So this is a really fantastic 4K release, but again, if you are someone who does already own the previous Blu-ray edition of this, it is not an essential upgrade. Okay, that is all from kicks.com.au. Once again, you can head over to their website and pick up all of these discs at a really, really good price. Now I'm going to take a look at a bunch of stuff that I picked up personally. These are my personal pickups for the last couple of months. Some stuff from online, some stuff at JB Hi-Fi sales. Firstly, let's kick off with the stuff that I did pick up at JB Hi-Fi. Now, they have had a couple of really good sales over the last couple of months. So JB, of course, have been having their regular, 2 for 20, 2 for 30 Blu-ray titles, 2 for 40 4K titles. They've had a clearance sale going on for about 12 months where they just kind of filtering in and out different titles, which are, on clearance, some as low as like $3 or $4. Of course, they have done a couple of 20 or 30% off sales recently. They've also offered $10 promo discounts for they just started a promotional program, like a loyalty program. Finally started a loyalty program and offered like $10 discount vouchers to everybody who signed up. So there's been a whole bunch of stuff going on at JB Hi-Fi, and I'll walk you through. Picked up a decent selection of titles here, most of which we picked up as part of these deals, and also, of course, the regular 20 and 30% off sales that happen on top of these deals. So you can just stack a bunch of stuff, walk away with some dirt cheap stuff. Firstly, we'll look at a handful of titles that we picked up in their clearance sale. Once again, these were probably between like $2 and $4 each. There was also a 30% off sale. I think it was a 20% off sale, and then there was an additional 10% off voucher on top of that. So it's like essentially a 30% off sale. So we got some of these just really, really, really cheap. Firstly, we've got The Fifth Wave. It's kind of like a sci-fi sort of alien invasion movie. Don't really know a lot about it. I do enjoy the work of Chloe Grace Moretz, so I do kind of want to check it out, even though it's got some pretty average reviews. This one was only like $3 or $4, so that was an easy grab. I picked up Action Point. Again, this is apparently a really, really awful movie. It stars Johnny Knoxville and one or two of the other Jackass guys. I am a big fan of Jackass, and I do have all the other movies on DVD or Blu-ray, so this was just one that I wanted to add to kind of my Jackass collection. All the stunts in the movie are real, so it is kind of like a spiritual successor to Jackass. Next up, we grabbed The Comeback Trail, which I was actually very surprised was part of this clearance sale. I think it was about $4. This has got Robert De Niro, Tommy Lee Jones, Morgan Freeman. Don't really know much about it. I think they're old actors who are trying to climb back. They're trying to retrieve their glory years with a big Hollywood comeback. But I just love these like old person movies where they've got all these classic old stars. They come back and it's just like a fun, goofy comedy. Also picked up The Mercy, starring Colin Firth and Rachel Weisz. This is a true story of an amateur sailor who competed in the 1968 Sunday Times Golden Globe race in the hope of becoming the first person in history to single-handedly circumnavigate the globe without stopping. I'm kind of on and off with Colin Firth movies. I like him as an actor, but a lot of his movies are just so really boring. So this is a movie I've put off for a long time, but I think this was like $4.50, and I thought this is finally the time to pick it up and check it out. And by all accounts, it is actually a really quite a good movie. Also picked up By the Sea. This one stars Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, written and directed by Angelina Jolie. Again, another movie that didn't really have a very good reception when it first came out. It's probably a pretentious load of crap, but for $4.50, I was kind of really keen to check it out. Next up, we grabbed Wonders of the Sea. This is a natural history documentary by Jean-Michel Cousteau and narrated by Arnold Schwarzenegger. This is one that I kind of put off picking up for a while because it was originally shot in 3D. This disc is not a 3D release, it's just a 2D release, and I kind of get annoyed when they do that, and if something has been filmed in 3D, I'd rather get the actual 3D edition. The only 3D one you could get was an import from overseas, and I couldn't be bothered paying the exorbitant fees that one was going for. Got this one here for like $2, so I was happy to pick it up. If I do find the 3D one comes on sale at some time down the future, I will consider picking that one up as well. And finally, we picked up Ultraviolet. Don't know anything really about this one. I know it's got Mila Jovovich in it. I really enjoy her kind of action films from this era. We're talking like the early to mid 2000s. You know, it's another one of these kind of futuristic action-adventure kind of dystopian things. It's got pretty average reviews, but I'm keen to check it out. And look, this one came in at like $1.50 or something absolutely mad like that, so I did have to grab this one for the collection. We also grabbed a couple of bundles from their current 3 for $30 Blu-ray sale. These are traditionally more recent movies that have been thrown into kind of a sale for the first time. I think there was a 20% off sale at the time as well, which means this essentially became a 3 for $24 sale, making each disc about $12 each, which is pretty good for a reasonably new release, like a couple of months old release. On top of that, we were able to apply our $10 vouchers that we got from our signing up to the JB Hi-Fi Perks program. Of course, there's a couple of us in this house who do regularly visit JB Hi-Fi and have JB Hi-Fi accounts and signed up for the perks, so we did get a couple of promo codes. We applied it to this and then essentially got these movies for maybe a couple of bucks each. Let's take a look at what we got. Firstly, there's The 355. This is kind of an action adventure flick starring a whole lot of really great female leads. This again is another one that got really bad reviews when it came out maybe 12 or so months ago, but I'm really keen to check it out. I like all of the actresses in this. I love these kind of just brainless action thriller movies, and I'm really keen to have a look at it. And again, for a couple of bucks, it was easy enough to grab. We picked up Dog, starring Channing Tatum. Saw this one at the movies when it was released and really did enjoy it. It's just a really great kind of heartwarming film. Channing Tatum's not the greatest actor around. I love dogs though, so I thought this was just a really beautiful movie and one worthy of picking up on Blu-ray. Picked up Everything Everywhere All at Once. This is a terrific movie and one of the absolute best from this year. This is, of course, available in 4K as well, but judging from the reviews that I saw, the 4K is not a huge leap above the Blu-ray, so I was more than happy just to grab this one on Blu-ray and get it into the collection. And also grabbed Moonfall, starring Halle Berry, Patrick Wilson, and John Bradley. Again, another one that didn't get great reviews on release. This one does look like a lot of fun, even if it does have bad reviews, but I'm really just counting on a brainless action disaster apocalyptic movie out of this one and cannot wait to watch it. Next up, we also grabbed a couple of titles from their current 2 for $40 4K sale. Again, there was a 20% off sale at the time, which essentially made these 2 for $31 or about $15.50 each. Again, I think we applied one of the $10 vouchers to this, so essentially got these movies for $10 each. And let's take a look at them. Firstly is The Untouchables. This is one that has only just been released on 4K a couple of months ago. It is a Paramount release. Usually I would have got something like this from kicks.com.au, who supply me with most of the Paramount discs, but this one was so popular they actually ran out of stock of it and couldn't get me one, so that's okay. I went out and picked a copy up for myself. And also to pair up with that, I finally got around to getting the 4K edition of A Few Good Men. Again, this is a Sony Pictures release. They are absolutely first class with their 4K remasters. The old Blu-ray is not very good, so I'm really happy to get this terrific movie on 4K. Next up, let's take a look at some personal pickups from Amazon over the last couple of months. Now, most of these are imports. In fact, I think all of these are imports. Of course, the way I do my imports on Amazon these days is that you don't go directly to like Amazon.com or Amazon.co.uk. You use Amazon.com.au and shop through the global store. And with Amazon Prime, you get absolutely free shipping on any order that you place using the global store. It used to be you had to spend like $50 to get the free shipping. Now you can just place absolutely any order, which is terrific. There's some really dirt cheap prices, really great deals in the global store. In fact, cheaper than if you were to go directly to the other websites. First, let's take a look at the one title that I picked up from Amazon.co.uk. Really happy that one of my favorite movies of all time, possibly my favorite classic film of all time, next to The Wizard of Oz, Casablanca, has finally been released on 4K. Now, this is getting a local 4K release, just a single disc thing from Warner Brothers, of course, but because I adore this movie so much, I had to import the special collector's edition from the UK. I have the two previous Ultimate Collector's editions that were available in the US a number of years ago, again, probably like 10 plus years ago. So I, of course, did also have to grab the 4K Ultimate Collector's Edition, which was available in the UK, but not the US, strangely. This is a really beautiful edition. It comes in a really nice hard box slipcover. They don't really do the oversized Ultimate Collector's Editions anymore. So this is a really just kind of normal size hard box. And inside that, we have got this absolutely stunning steelbook of the movie. I'm not a huge steelbook collector, but when I really love the movie, and if the steelbook is really beautiful, I will grab it. And of course, Casablanca, I love it, and it's included in the Ultimate Collector's Edition. I just had to grab this. Stunning artwork on there. There's also a nice little envelope in here which includes some sort of artifact, reproduction artifact things like photographic lobby cards, a couple of posters, and some reproduction blueprints and production materials. So yeah, a really great 4K edition right there of Casablanca. They do a lot of these sort of collector's editions in the UK, but in most cases, I'm just happy to grab the local release editions of these. Next up are a couple of titles that I picked up from Amazon.com. These were actually Black Friday sale deals. I didn't really pick up a whole lot this Black Friday, but these are the 3 discs that I did pick up from Amazon.com. I think they all came at around $15 each, so let's take a look. Firstly, I grabbed Soap Dish. This is a kind of comedic drama from the early 1990s. Don't know a lot about it. I believe it's about actors that act in a soap and the kind of melodramatic soapy things that happen on and off the set. It's got a stellar cast including Sally Field, Kevin Kline, Robert Downey Jr., Whoopi Goldberg. I've heard over the years that this is just such a great kind of cult movie, and I'm really excited to dive into this. Next up is The Lovebirds, starring Kumail Nanjiani and Issa Rae. This is one of the very first movies during the pandemic that was supposed to come out theatrically but then was sold off to a streaming service. In this case, Netflix bought the rights to this one. I watched it when it first came out and absolutely loved it. It's very funny, it's heartwarming, it's just a really great kind of romantic comedy, action, adventure movie. And the fact that it actually got a Blu-ray release, a physical release somewhere in the world, even though it was sold off to Netflix, is an absolute miracle, and I had to get my hands on this one. I think this was only like $12. Next up, another fairly recent release from Paramount, Paris When It Sizzles, starring Audrey Hepburn and William Holden. Believe it or not, I have not actually seen this one. I'm a huge Hepburn fan, and this is essentially her last big classic movie that I haven't seen. I've owned it on DVD for many years, but I've been waiting for a Blu-ray release. They did originally release this in the US as part of like a 7-movie Audrey Hepburn collection maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I have all the other movies, so I didn't really feel like paying $30 or $40 just to get my hands on this movie. I knew that they would release an individual version of it at some point. And finally, I also picked up Heaven Can Wait, starring Warren Beatty. This is a movie I have wanted to see for a very long time. This is a remake of a classic Hollywood movie called Here Comes Mr. Jordan, which I absolutely adore. That came out on Blu-ray as part of the Criterion Collection a number of years ago, and since then, I have had particular interest in watching this. This was also then remade again as a movie called Down to Earth, starring Chris Rock in the sort of early 2000s. They have also released the Chris Rock version on Blu-ray recently over in America. I believe it was released on the same day as Heaven Can Wait, so I'm really looking forward to grabbing that one as well when I can get it for a good price. And with that, that is all the titles that I'm going to spotlight in this video right here. I was hoping this was going to be a kind of shorter video, but it's gone on a little bit long. Sorry about that. Again, getting a few more videos out, rolling at the moment. We've got a whole bunch of stuff to cover from Umbrella and Via Vision and Imprint as well. Whole bunch of titles we're going to be taking a look at. But thanks again for joining me for this roundup of kicks.com.au titles and some personal pickups for the month as well. Until next time, take it easy. I'll see you then.